Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Tang. Today I'm going to show you guys how to take the bell housing off and put it back on. This is the D series, this is the GSR B series. And the tools you'll need is a 10mm, 12mm, and a 14mm socket. That's all you will need to take apart these transmissions. First you'll have to have something to take the transmission off of the bell of the main shaft. So I got these little aluminum blocks. I placed the transmission up, and it takes the pressure off, the weight off of the main shaft. So I have one on here too. I took off all the bolts around the transmission to speed the video up. You can, to make things easy, you can take off all the bolts from the bell housing up. Just take off all the bolts. I'll post up a link to, or some pictures up on what needs to be taken off, but if you want to, you can take off all the bolts. Nothing, you won't be hurting nothing on it. And on these, when you take off the selector spring, the B series has these. The D series has them in the transmission, but when you take out these springs, what these springs does is it holds the gears in place. So when you experience gear pop-outs, it's more likely this guy. From my experience I've dealt with, the springs get a little wore out. They kind of get like this, where they're a little bent, and that's because the washer, you have to make sure the washer's on it, and everything else, and then make sure you tilt it over. Let me get this up. Make sure you get this little spring out. This is what selects the gears for you, or this little ball. It selects the gears for you and it holds it in place. So make sure you tilt it over, get all the little balls out. But on this part is the snap ring that holds everything down. What you want to do is just stick in the needle nose pliers and give it a pry. Did you hear that drop? So it just dropped. Once it drops, it should come out very easily. Usually I just stick in the needle nose straight in, and it does it already. So so now that it's dropped, you just want to get a pry bar, flathead screwdriver, whatever you have around you, you can use to pry. And I always like to pry this side of the bell housing. This is where the shifter fork goes. So on this little corner there's a little lip, and then you got the little prior here. So it should come out very easy, just like that, and you shouldn't have a problem at all. With the B series, the B16 and the LS, you would have to pry the back end of the transmission and the front end and kind of pry it together to get it to come up. So once it comes up, it's that easy. Just take it up. And then on the next video, like I said, I'll show you how to inspect the gears and what to look for. On here, you want to make sure when you put the transmission back that you line up this little notch to this little key right here. This is what lines it back up, and then make sure it lines up to about right here. But if you look under the bell housing, you'll see where this actually lines up to somewhere around here. So once you got that lined up on the bell housing, like I said, all you got to do is put it back on, and use this hole right here as a guide hole to guide your bearings. And then once you get this bearing guided in, it should go in pretty easy. now that it's in, what you want to do is get a rubber mallet or a piece of wood. Place a piece of wood and hit it with the hammer. What you want to do is pry this ring. You'll notice that the ring doesn't go over the bearing. So what you want to do is pry that ring to where the bearing goes back to where it needs to be. So the bearing won't be on all the way. What you're gonna do is kind of hit it with the mallet, or put a piece of wood up here and hit it with the hammer. What you want to do is make sure the bell housing. You want to make sure the bell housing is flush with the clutch housing. So make sure you don't use the bolts to tighten it up. You're going to break it. So make sure it lays flush, goes back on the bell housing, and you should be good to go. We're just going to put on 2 bolts. You speed things up, and then you notice that the top, if you notice the top ring, like I showed you just a few seconds ago, that it didn't go back into the bearing groove. So what you want to do is turn the case on its side and hit the main shaft. Once you do that, it should go back into place. See, it's back into the groove, and then you should be ready to go. Just put back all the bolts back, and you should be ready to roll. On the D series, on the D16, I wanted to show you guys, because this one's a little more tricky. What I like to do on this one is, it's off already. But on the D16, what I like to do is I like to pry it. Sorry about that. On the D16, I like to pry the ring open, and then once it's open, get a little extension and stick it on top of the bearing. Just like that. And then what you want to do is hit the bearing, give it a few, not very hard, but a few whacks, and then the bearing should go below the snap rings, and then once it's off of the snap rings, it should be like that. So it's off of the snap ring grooves, and then once it's off the groove, the transmission itself should be easy to take apart. So like I said, I like to pry on this side, and then with this one, it has to be pried on both sides. So once you pry both sides, it should come up very easily, and then it comes up and back in. On this one, doesn't have the ring, guide ring, so you should be able to just put this transmission back, the casing back on, do the same thing, use this hole to align the bearings. Once it aligns, you should be good to go. But the video is getting pretty long now, so good luck. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email and I'll see what I can do to help.